it's you. Huh. It's been a long time. I don't want another boring party.
Get off my back.
But you promised me a party, and that's what I want.
That's up to your skills.
What's going on, you guys? This is your boy RBG, aka The Random Black Gamer, bringing you my review of Devil May Cry Peak of Combat. Now, I just want to go ahead and disclose in advance that I had the luxury of playing this game months ago. Like I want to say back in May of last year, Nebula Joy, after seeing that I put in so much work and gave you guys all the different updates pertaining to this game and reminding you that it was actually a thing, they were courteous enough to send me an invite to play the closed beta. As per usual, they provided me with these in-game resources and they told me to have at it and create captivating content for you guys to showcase what the game has to offer. But lo and behold, I sat on all the footage I captured and I never brought that content to you guys. And there's a good reason for that. As you all know, I am a big proponent to the Devil May Cry brand. I love everything the franchise stands for. I have uploaded countless videos for each installment and came up with my own theories on stuff that needed to be filled in. Devil May Cry is just one of those things that has a plethora of stuff to offer the players, from the story to the characters, but most of all the actual gameplay. That's what we love the most. We love the hyper stylized action the game has to offer and the combos that you can pull off, which seem to be limitless. That's the key word that we're going to keep on saying in this video. Limitless possibilities. Even though I feel like the ultimate Billy Badass when I'm playing these games, I admit that I am not the best, so I go out of my way to watch the best on YouTube do it when they showcase their skills. You see, in the DMC community, we have these video compilations known as Mad Combos, which punctuates the insane things you can do in the game and show you that you've been doing it all wrong. From insane cross-ups to insane enemy steps and jump cancels, everything is just limitless, like I said. Like, the game just has a deep layer of complexity that I don't think the average player can actually comprehend. And one of the things I said in my previous video when I talked about Peak of Combat was how they were going to actually replicate that for a mobile game, because if you aren't aware, this is a game that can mostly be played on phones, but if I'm not mistaken, you can actually play it on the PC as well via configurations to your keyboard or gamepad, but at its core, it's still a mobile game. And when it was initially announced, I wondered how Devil May Cry's gameplay mechanics would actually translate to a touchscreen gameplay style. Like, playing Devil May Cry on the gamepad can already be cramp-inducing, but even the base level combat can be a little bit more demanding than your average button masher. So I was under the assumption that Nebula Joy would have DMC players playing Twister with their fingers on their phones, but color me surprised, they actually did it. They were able to take everything that was great about Devil May Cry, particularly Devil May Cry 3 in the later entries, and apply it to this mobile game. Now, mind you, this was like in 2020 when the game wasn't necessarily available outside of the eastern region, but there were skilled players that were showcasing everything it had to offer, and everything just looked like how it looked on the consoles. There was a heavy emphasis on combos, weapon switching, and building your score up to an insane amount. Everything was present and accounted for, and I could not wait to get my hands on this game. I remember reading comments from fans just praising Nebula Joy for actually doing their homework. They felt like genuine fans of the franchise and they were going to do it a lot of justice. Or so we thought. As you know, Devil May Cry Peak of Combat wasn't originally named that. It was actually named something totally different. Devil May Cry Pinnacle of Combat was the name that it was going under, and if you want to, you can call that a working title, but I firmly believe that that was changed for all intents and purposes to fit this new schematic that they retrofitted on the game. For whatever mind-numbing reason, Nebula Joy thought that they should just gut all of the things that was making this game look great in the first place and simplify most of the functions. And as you can imagine, fans weren't happy about this. They felt like, why would you do this to something that was already proven to be a good thing? You proved that you could actually bring this game to a mobile device and make it function properly, but now it felt like they were essentially defanging a dog that had a lot of bite to go with its bark. Something worth pointing out was that the 1.0 version of Devil May Cry Peak of Combat was already missing a few key components such as Dante's styles. He was missing Swordmaster and Gunslinger, and in exchange they only gave him Trickster and Royal Guard. I didn't really have a problem with that because I felt like the sword and gunplay could have just been mapped to one action button, which if I'm not mistaken they ultimately did, but now a vast majority of those moves that were associated with Swordmaster are no longer there, not to mention that the only devil arm that you are able to equip, that being Agni and Ruja, is no longer available. So instead you're just stuck with Dante's standard weapon, that being the Rebellion, which I was fine with since that was always going to be Dante's go-to weapon. It's always in his arsenal, it's a part of his namesake, so hey, oh well. But where I specifically drew the line was when they took out Dante's guns. Yes, since you don't have Gunslinger, you cannot use his signature pistols, Ebony and Ivory, which is a cardinal sin. Because as you all know, Devil May Cry has some very versatile enemy types, some of which you can't reach. You're not always going to be lucky enough to fight them close quarters, so you have your pistols to remedy that. Ebony and Ivory would also allow players to keep up their combos. Like if you didn't want to jump up and do like a helm splitter or anything of that sort, you could simply stand there and shoot to keep the enemy in the air. So it's ridiculous that Nebula Joy thought it would be this brilliant idea to not include them in the gameplay, even though you could see them in all the promotional and marketing material, and you see Dante use these weapons several times in the actual in-game cutscenes. It's ridiculous, man. There should never be a reason why any character within the Devil May Cry series should lack a projectile of any type. Hell, just look at Virgil. Even though he walks in the way of the Bushido, he still finds a way to utilize projectiles by way of the summoning swords. Speaking of projectiles and summoning, we gotta talk about the big elephant in the room, which is the character switch feature. That's gonna be the only way that you can supplement the lack of firearms with Dante, because at the time of this current version of the game, the only characters that have those abilities are Nero and Lady. You have the blue rose for Nero, and Lady's miscellaneous arsenal of firearms, which includes her pistol, her submachine gun, and most of all, her bazooka, Kalina Ann. Nero is okay, like he came in version 2 of the game, so I can't say they script anything away from him, but just like Dante, Lady was completely neutered as well. Even though she's a walking artillery unit, she's very limited in what she can do. I would be quite generous if I said she had a handful of moves, but I don't even think it's that. Like she has like a few moves she can do and that's it. Compared to the first build of the game where she was killing it. She had her pistol, she had her bazooka, she could do different moves with her feet. She didn't even have to utilize her weapon to do launchers, but now it seems like everything is kind of mapped. It's all very underwhelming. And as I mentioned earlier, I had the chance to play this game back in May of last year, but I didn't upload any footage on it, and that's simply because I felt like there was nothing worth writing home about. All I found myself doing was hammering down a single touch button and just jumping with Dante. If there's one thing that I can give them credit on, is adding in this new evasive maneuvering system, where essentially if you time it right and you jump up in the air as the enemy is about to land a blow on you, you can do this aerial counter strike. I found that move very satisfying as well as visually pleasing, and I think a lot of the moves are visually pleasing. Like everything looks beautiful in terms of the animations, but the way they have been repurposed is very daunting. Like you can just tell that this game was remade with casuals in mind, because unlike the previous entries where you actually had to learn how to play the game, you had to train and get your skills up, there's no training required to actually get quote-unquote good at this game. You can still perform some cool combos, but since the moves and weapons have been stripped down in this version of the game, there's only so far you can go within that parameter until you start seeing combos that you perform for the 1000th time. So yeah, this game was kind of a bore fest, and I really didn't have much to talk about because we already knew that this was going to be the version they were giving us based on the updates they provided and word of mouth based on people who've actually played the game early. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, another reason why I didn't want to bring this to your attention was because I was holding out hope that they would actually fix these things if we roared loud enough. Anytime they would post any updates on their social media handles or upload a video to their official YouTube channel, we made it loud and clear that we did not like these changes, but they still came out with it. Like the final version that I'm playing now is basically what I got to play all those months ago. The only thing that I noticed was different was the fact that I was going to have to work a lot harder compared to how I did when I played the beta and I had all of those resources available that the devs gave me. Because this game right here, it is built heavily on the foundation foundation of microtransactions, which has undoubtedly played a part in how this latest version has been rebuilt compared to the first version. Instead of having all those iconic weapons and skills available when you pick up the game, it's now being locked behind a paywall in the form of this gacha system. Meaning if you want to feel like a complete badass like you did in the yesteryears of Devil May Cry, you're gonna have to fork over some actual cash. Real life currency. That's the only way the devs felt like they were going to make money off of this. Actually scripting down the game till it's essentially just a bare-boned husk of what it used to be. If you want to use the classical Navon devil arm for Dante, you're going to have to actually grind for the in-game currency or spend your actual money to get this skin that it's attached to. The same can be said for Nero, who can only use his Devil Bringer if you acquire the skin that's associated with it. Video game capitalism at its finest. Everything in this game is focused on microtransactions. Even though I found the presentation to fall in line with the Devil May Cry brand, especially with how you acquire these different things, it's still a lot of pointless dribble that you have to go through. Like you have to go up into this bar and talk to this guy and actually pick up these missions in the form of challenges and battle arenas, but there's not much to the imagination here. Everything is just built around putting money into the game to give you this false sense of power. I can honestly say, as a person that tries to stay away from the gacha related games, that this right here just brought up everything that I hate about that genre. Useless mechanics that I have no understanding of, such as this slot machine that you can use, different card systems that you can mold together to create stronger weapons, all these different things that the common DMC fan just doesn't feel like having to go through because they just want to slash something up. Like it feels like they tried to take that Hoyoverse monetization philosophy and apply it to this game. It has this weird stamina system that you gotta have filled in order to play through the game's story, and even after having that bar filled up, you're probably only gonna get about 20 minutes of story gameplay because it's gonna require you to fill it up again, and it's gonna take you a great deal of time to acquire that specific resource. And since we're on the topic of story, I'm just gonna say it now, this game, it's a hodgepodge of different cutscenes. I didn't really understand where I was or how certain characters came into play. They just randomly appear. It's almost like it doesn't really have a consistent narrative flow, if you know what I mean. It just feels directionless, and the voice acting is very subpar. I mean, I know this game was developed by a company based in mainland China, but I was honestly expecting a little bit more in terms of the actual quality, because Devil May Cry is a property that originates over in the East, but the company that produces it does such a phenomenal job of making you feel like it's a Western property when in actuality it's a Japanese one. But it just feels like Nebula Joy didn't even try with this game. Despite it trying to be this Genshin Impact or Honkai Impact 3rd knockoff, they didn't even put forth the effort that MiHoYo does with their properties. Like, say what you want about Hoyoverse and their greedy monetization practices, they still put a lot of effort into their projects. I've already heard many Genshin Impact fans say that they didn't have to spend a single dime on any kind of microtransaction because the game is just that fun to play and they don't mind grinding a little longer in order to acquire things that they want. Not to mention that the dubbing and voice acting is better in that game. Peak of Combat sounds like it just uses some kind of AI generator for its voices. The lip flaps and audio are out of sync, and most of the time I found myself just reading text. Despite the game looking visually pleasing to the eye and boasting different landmarks from the Devil May Cry series, it all feels like a vacant lot that's very lifeless. Enemies drop in sporadically, but everything just feels empty, which is disappointing. Like, you would think that since this game has essentially been in the development oven for the better half of 6 years, it would have a lot going for it, but instead it's this lifeless husk that has the DMC skin on it, and it's mired down with different egregious microtransactional practices. I really wish I could have given you guys a very structured and laid out review going over all the different things in complete detail, but I honestly feel like this game isn't deserving of that. So I'm just gonna leave it at this. If you are a gacha game enthusiast and you know what you're getting yourself into, then by all means try it out. I still feel like your mileage is gonna vary, because if you were to take out all the egregious monetization practices and the cumbersome progression system, it would be a very mid game and only want to make you go play something else such as Honkai Impact 3rd or Genshin Impact. But if you're a big Devil May Cry fan like myself, you're just gonna find yourself being disappointed all around. There's nothing about this game that really goads the player to want to play more or even spend the extra cash to feel like you're going on a power trip, so stay away from it. But anyways, that's going to do it for us today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video because I always have a blast making these things for you. If there's anything that you want to add to this, whether you are going to play the game or whether you're going to stay away from the game, comment why in the comment section below. As always, I ask that you like or dislike the video. It doesn't have to be a thumbs up, it can be a thumbs down. But if you really enjoyed this video, I would appreciate it if you shared it with all your friends and followers on all the different social media outlets. Sharing is caring. But once again, this is your boy RBG, aka The Random Black Gamer, signing out on another video. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.